Okay, so now let's talk about explorative tests. So this is a relatively open test. You're looking for qualitative feedback and you want to obtain deep insights about your customer motivations and habits. So you can deviate, of course you will prepare your test, but you can deviate if you want to, just in order to get more insight. So if somebody says something interesting, you can really get some insights out of that and go deeper into the conversation on the new topic as well. These tests, you're going to take a look at how you're solving the problem of your customer. So previously, you've probably taken a look at the problem, at how it's really working, what the motivations and habits of your customers are respectively on this problem. And now you're going to take a look at how your solution is going to solve this problem. So it's really about checking if the function is right, if more value could be added, or how you could resolve this problem better. It really helps you to get insight on these functions and this value that you're proposing to your customer. Now, I'm going to present you a couple of options of explorative tests that you might want to use. Of course, depending on the problem that you're working on or the solution that you're working on, one test may fit better than the other. So you would have to choose which test or tests that would really bring insights to you as an entrepreneur or an innovator. And you might opt for the options that better fit what you're doing. So the first explorative test is about critical incidents. Now, this is about user stories. So you're going to ask your user to tell you a story about a critical incident that sometimes happened regarding the problem that you're working on. So they would tell you the story, and then something in the story would happen and they would respond to it, and it might have a positive or a negative end result. Now, within these user stories, you pay attention first to the cause and the circumstances. What kind of situation was it that led to a certain action or response from your user? Then what kind of action was this actually? What did the user do? How did they respond? And how did he feel about it? And then finally, what was the result of this action? And of course, also what would be the ideal outcome? So for example, you're driving somewhere and you find yourself in a traffic jam. So you would need to stop the car or drive very slowly, and you would get there late. You would get at your appointment late. So that's the context, right? That's the cause. So you're driving, there's a traffic jam, that's the cause of a certain problem, and now you need to respond. So maybe you're taking a look at the maps in your cell phone, or maybe you're taking a look at the GPS and you're trying to find an alternative route, and then you're going to take a turn to get to the alternative route to try to get to your appointment on time. So you're taking an action. Now, how do you feel about it? Do you feel stressed because you need to get there on time and it is a very important appointment? Or do you feel relieved that you get out of the traffic jam and finally you're moving again? And then the end result, did you get to your appointment on time, or were you late anyway? Would you have been faster continuing with the traffic jam? Maybe a positive outcome would be you will find a shorter route and now you're going to use it more often. And what would be the ideal outcome? So ideally, well, you would get there on time, right? So these kind of user stories, this is a kind of simple example, but you can elaborate a lot with your respondents on these user stories, and these will really give you an insight about the way of thinking of your potential customer and how you could resolve something for them, what kind of thinking they use in order to solve their problem, and how you could really facilitate a solution better. So that was the first test. Now let's go to the second one. This is called a comprehension test. So basically you have a prototype, or you have maybe a customer journey, or maybe just a storyboard or a sketch of your product. You will give it to the customer. The customer will take a look at it, play around with it, do something with your prototype, and then you can ask your customer for feedback. First, you will ask, what is this? What does it do for you? How would you use it? Does it really fit into your life somehow, into solving the problem? So you're asking the customer to explain the product for you. Now, the more text you can leave to your customer, the better. Now, sometimes you have like a service and you need to explain something, but the more they can tell you about your product and what kind of value it offers for them, the better feedback you get, the more qualitative feedback, and probably the deeper the insights can be. So you can ask a lot of questions in this test as well. Does the user understand the concept, or does he really need an explanation? Is this offering a value for the customer, and how does it solve a problem? And what's usually the hardest part of solving this problem before this product, and how does this product help you to solve the problem actually? What are the disadvantages of this solution, and how could we maybe take away these disadvantages? And does also the user have more ideas about how it could improve? So that's a comprehension test. Basically, the customer is giving you feedback on what it does for him and how he understands the product. Now there's card sorting. This is very explorative, and basically you would make at least 30 cards, and it's a very good test, for example, to prioritize or to see which kind of terms and words are related to for a customer. For example, to lay out a menu for a website or an application. So you really use the cards in order to get like an order in things. And that really helps you to shape your product or your website, for example, to really prioritize what kind of function is the principal function of your value proposition. Now you could use these, you could do this test in groups of 2 or 3 people. Then you would get probably a very interesting conversation about what belongs where and what should be more important than something else. And that really helps you to get these insights. So, and that's a good tip anyway, to ask people to think out loud during the test. So that's where you really get a lot of insights. Now the 4th test is a concierge test. And basically in a concierge test, what you do is you're walking along with the customer, providing the value proposition to him in a personal way. So this is definitely not scalable. It's going to take up a lot of time, but also it might provide you a lot of value, a lot of insights that will help you in your process of developing your concept. So you're joining the user and you're providing the value proposition manually. So for example, if you have an application that gives nutrition and health advice, you would go with the user to a supermarket and see what the user is actually buying, what kind of products, if they're healthy products or not so healthy products, and what would be healthier choices. And you would provide your value proposition on the spot. So the user would take, let's say, a bread in the supermarket, and you would tell them, well, this is all right, but you could have a better bread, like a whole wheat bread, which is healthier, for example. So you would provide the value, but manually, and that way you can really see what the customer thinks like and at which moment your value proposition would be useful for your customer and what are the kind of interaction moments with your product. So that really helps to get things going. Now, the outcome of these kinds of tests are always qualitative, and it always focuses on insights. You want to get the best qualitative insights possible, because that is really what leads you to a greater value in your development process, a better development of your product, and finally a better value proposition and more success in the market, a better segmented market, a better business model in the end. So you're trying to learn. You're not selling something, you're trying to learn, and that's a very different attitude. You're not trying to convince anybody, you're just learning about how this works in practice.